Welcome, friends, to another episode of HaHa Horde House. I just love saying the name. I'm sorry. The HaHa Horde, the people that enjoy and love comedy. That's what the HaHa Horde House is for. And what is the HaHa Horde House about? Well, it's about me, Mark Trinidad, your host, talking to other comedians and finding out about their origin story, how they got started in the world of stand-up comedy, how their journey has been going thus far. Because I've always been fascinated by what makes a comedian. What were the things that occurred that made a comedian want to pursue this art form, right? Because I know a lot of people that love comedy, but they never stand up and hold a mic. I've heard this story from many comedians, that we have friends that are funnier than us, but they never hit the stage. There's something about comedians that makes them want to hit a stage to become what they become. And that's what this whole podcast is all about. And this week, I get to talk to my good friend, Black Zeus. You're going to love Black Zeus, the conversation that I had with Black Zeus. Hey, there's a reason his name is Black Zeus. The kid got some wisdom in him. And as an ode to my buddy Black Zeus, I wore this geeky jersey on his behalf. Today, I will be wearing the T'Challa Wakanda Panthers jersey. I can't wait for him to see it. He hasn't seen it yet. He knows I wear these jerseys, so I can't wait for him to see this one. What a beautiful piece of artwork from my friends at Geeky Jerseys. They do incredible work. Check them out at geekyjerseys.com. And of course, thank you to my good friend, Jay Digital Arts, for doing those wonderful overlays for us. That artwork is incredible. And thank you for all that you do for all of us comedians out there. All right. And with no further blah, blah, blahing, let's get right into the show.
I got my own Mark. I got my own place.
This is what I'm saying.
Hallelujah.
This is why I wanted to get in there and get that information, guy. You understand what I'm saying? So you're in a house now.
I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment all by myself.
Yo, so
I feel like an adult.
You're not living with other comedians now.
I feel like an adult. Like I can't believe it took a pandemic for me to live properly, but no roommate, no parents, no siblings, all my space. If I want to walk around naked, it's mine, nigga. What's up?
Yeah, it's a different feeling when you actually have your own. You know what I mean?
You see when the smile, Mark?
I know. Now, mind you, what age are you now?
I'm 31.
31. That's a good age to start being adulting, I guess, is what the young people call it now. Adulting. Yeah, that's a good age to start adulting. Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. I always when I was younger, I always had this feeling of like being late to the party. When I started comedy, I felt like I was late but then over time, you just realize like everything progresses as it should. You're really not ready for things if they're not happening for you. So, well, no, based on your interpretation, you look at the things and you interpret it towards the benefit of yourself. That's what the mind does. That's what the human beings do, right? That's like that term cognitive dissonance. You look for the thing that basically works towards your narrative. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you could interpret anything in any direction that you want to interpret it, right? But you mature at the age that which you mature, the opportunities that come, you take them as they come. And my firm belief is never regret anything. Don't look at somebody else's measure and start to measure yourself by it. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Regret is poison, man.
It's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful to look back and say, listen, every choice that a human being makes, you make it in the time with the knowledge that you have. And based on that knowledge, you make the right decision for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So how can you look backwards now and say, you know what, now that I have new information.
Exactly, man.
No, you can't do that.
That hindsight is 2020 shit is very real.
It's horrible, man. It could affect you. So yeah, I live in the moment. A little too much in the moment. Maybe if I invested.
It's so nice to hear you laugh and see that beard. Man.
Yo,
They
listen.
took it. They killed comedy. They killed it.
No. Stop with that nonsense.
Here in
Comedy
Ontario.
doesn't die. Comedy doesn't die. The venues might have changed, but the fact that, listen, when we talk to each other, we have comedy because we're making each other laugh, right? So comedy ain't dead. You know, I understand what people are saying, but by the same token, I don't think they understand what they're saying.
I'm also exaggerating because we are in a pocket. Like it's hard to imagine that this isn't happening anywhere else, but it kind of isn't. Like we're in a place where the lockdown. I mean, what you can say like New York, California, and stuff. But I'm watching comedians do full on tours and stuff.
Yeah, I see people open up. I mean, Trix is touring all over Vegas, and you know what I mean? I get it, but based on the information that these government officials have, they have to run with what they see. And if they see there's a spike, all right, lockdown again. Listen, I empathize with business owners that are seeing their businesses crumble in front of their eyes. I empathize with that. I empathize with performers and entertainment people in the industry who have been able to ply their trade. I get all of that, right?
You're going with the safety thing, aren't you?
I get it. But I also see the safety thing. I also see we want to get this thing under control. So I see both sides. So I can't. I'm not.
I think the frustration really just lays in the execution of things, because we've had all this data. We know who's vulnerable. We've known how to protect them, and how to like move into slowly getting back to. I know it's not going to be normal, man. This going back to normal is not a thing.
Well, then I would jump in and ask you, what is normal? How do you define normal? If
I think
you define normal by what you've experienced in the past, right? One can argue, if we take it to the extreme, that normal is peeing yourself, right? Because as a baby, you peed yourself. You pooped. Somebody cleaned it up.
Yeah, but it's also normal to progress out of that. That is also a normal progression of things. I think
what we're doing right now is we're progressing.
You're not wrong.
It's just a transitionary period. That's all that it is.
It's a lot of growing pains.
Dude, listen, everybody has to experience some kind of struggle, some kind of suffering for them to, experience an awakening, right? Because when you have the same thing over and over, like a Groundhog Day, right? You tend to follow the same path. You know, when a guy drives to work, he tends to follow the same path. He doesn't take different routes. So if everything is the same, you tend to follow the same. We need things like this in our lives that shake up the norm, that changes the status quo, so that we can have new pathways developed up here, so that we can now think ahead and say, you know what, I really didn't save enough. I had enough money for a year. Things are tight now. When things emerge, I'm going to start taking the right kind of actions to make sure that this never happens to my family again. You understand what I'm saying? You have to
absolutely.
Go through it.
Now, how far down the rabbit hole do you go of distrust of the government and their ability to make the best decisions for the people versus their ability to make the best decisions for the people that line their pockets?
Now, you would have to look at the government and understand why a concept like a government was put in place, right? We want some people to be in charge that we think are responsible and can make the right decisions. That's why as democracy, we vote for them, we put them in charge. Correct. Now, in past years, we've seen that human beings can be corrupted. And we've seen that sometimes they make choices that don't align with our decision or our direction. I get that. Once again, put the right things in place for you and your family so somebody on the outside cannot affect you like that. You see what I'm saying? You can do it to a certain extent, and then there are things that are beyond your control and you have to just let go. It's like how the Christians talk about that particular psalm, right? The serenity prayer, give me the strength to fix the things that I can fix and let go of the things that I can't. Sometimes you have to be like, it's going to rain. Are you going to get angry that it rains? Yeah, you could. Can you change the rain? No, you can't.
No, you can't.
You can put up an umbrella. You can wear some galoshes, as the old people used to call them, right? But you can't change the fact that there are things that are not in your control. And you have to let them go.
Very well opinionated. As always with you, God damn it.
I read a lot. So I've read about other philosophies that I started to, internally digest. And when I spit it out, it sounds like it's mine, but it ain't mine. I ain't that wise. I just look like a sage. I just look wise.
Man, what's your routine? How have you been maintaining the beard and all that through this? Do you have a groomer? You do it yourself, or?
No, I have to do it myself because, they shut down barbers. Well,
Yeah.
you could go in and get a haircut, but generally speaking, because of the mask thing, a lot of guys aren't doing beards now. So I groom it myself. I do all the work myself.
Do you have a beard that covers the mask?
Yes, it's called a beard tarp.
Sorry, a mask that covers the beard. You never caught that.
Yeah. I have the same thing, so I understood exactly what you were trying to say. Yeah. No, I found a company based in Barrie, my town, right?
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that actually make this thing called a beard tarp. So I look like an Afghan bride because it covers the nose and it goes straight down like a hijab. I don't, you know what I meant, the thing, right? It's straight down like this. So it doesn't put that kink in the beard. It's awesome. But, hey, I'm not going out that much. So I wear it a little bit, but not too much.
How have you been keeping busy? You doing online shows or?
Negative, guys. Since the start of this, I've done the podcast, that we're on, right? And I probably did three or four corporate shows. But other than that,
yeah. How was a corporate Zoom show?
I had to MC some events. So it was pretty easy because I'm tossing to one speaker to the next. I make fun of what a speaker said or something I see in the background. Very easy stuff. I didn't really have to run material per se, but it is what it is. I just don't like it because I like to, in terms of my comedy, I'm a rant style comedian. And I'm very attuned to any kind of movement that happens in the space. So I literally look for people to blink when I say a joke, because now if it's my opinion and they blink, it makes me think, oh, you're not of the same opinion.
Yeah,
and it elevates my energy to be able to try and convince them, like a lawyer trying to make the jury, you know what I mean, come to my side of thought. So I'm locked into that for the past 25 years. So to get out of that and start staring at this mechanical camera thing so that you and I could look eye to eye instead of me looking at the screen, right? Learning all those little things has been difficult, but it's part of this new digital game.
Yo, I swear to God, as soon as you said that, I don't know. I want you to look at your video recording and see if you can see my eyes move up. Pop up. I've been looking at your eyes on the screen the whole time.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that we have to learn as a comic. You learn to pick up the microphone stand, get it out the way. You don't want something in front of you taking away the attention. You get it out the way, right? It's just one of those things that we learn. So now we have to learn, look at the camera, because on the TV or the monitor, it makes my eyes look like I'm looking directly at you. You connect better. So it's one of those things that you have to learn. It wasn't something that I got right away.
I'm always high, so nobody could ever tell when my eyes are open or closed.
I just did a podcast with Nitesh, and my guy rolling this big fat blunt, and I'm like, yo, guy, like, yo, medicine.
Wait, you can roll? Oh, this is that type of podcast?
We don't care.
Okay.
What, you think I'm gonna be like, nah, man?
I like this little neon sign you got going in the background. What is that? Is the podcast name?
Well, I don't have that good a camera yet to be able to pick up the neon sign, because if I turn it on, it just whites it out. It looks like the sun. But true. What it actually says is do what you love. Right?
Oh, blessed. Okay.
Which is my kind of philosophy. If you do what you love, you don't, as a cliche goes, you never work a day in your life. Right. I'm a big fan of that. I teach my kids that. So I had to get it, but I got to figure out if I need a better camera or I have to put it behind a tint or something. I'll get it done eventually. The background has to change. I have look at this. Let me show you how
I like the blue. I like it looks like it goes to purple a little bit too.
It is a little purple, and there's a reason behind the purple. I'm going to now tell you the reason behind the purple, right?
Okay.
Because I wear a geeky jersey, a hockey jersey.
Oh, I know the
according-
jersey.
Yeah, according to every guest that I have on the show. And the jersey aligns with the person that I have on the show. And
Okay.
today I'm wearing
Wakanda forever. Purple is the color of royalty.
exactly. So I had to change my LED lighting so that it could look a little purple in the back, because that's, you know, that's our colors, guy.
African vibes. We're gonna eat jollof rice, huh?
No, stop that, guy. Stop that. Jollof rice. I'm Caribbean, so I have jollof rice part 2 or 2.0.
Yeah, I just have rice. We fuck around with the sponge bread in Ethiopia. In Jeddah?
What do we call that? I think the Africans have a thing called fufu.
Yeah.
That's the Nigerians, if I'm not.
Nigeria and Ghana, they mix between
Ghana.
fufu and I just said it.
We have another one. I can't remember. It's made with, what's the fufu made with? Is it corn?
I don't know. I'm northern, so I don't really eat fufu and jollof.
We do couscous.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I fucks with some couscous though.
Yo, guy, and then we mix. Is it what? Is it? I can't remember. Aloes, okra. Okra is mixed in with it. Oh, yo, guy, this stuff is nice. Anyway,
that was fun having you trying to figure that out. You know what's
I was
really
trying to
annoying to me?
remember. I haven't had it in a while, guy.
Yo, Mark, man, I grew up. I got so much heat for being Ethiopian. I was hungry, flies, this and that, and now everybody wants to take me to get Ethiopian food. They're like, "Oh my god, it's the best." I'm like, bruh.
Listen,
You
I
late
have
to the goddamn
always
party.
said, I have always said, if people travel more, racism wouldn't exist, because it's in the experiencing of life outside of your norm, outside of your borders, that you start to realize we're all basically the
You
same.
gain perspective.
You might have a different way that you cook your rice. You may use a long grain. I might use a white rice. You might use the, you know, as when I was growing up, they had the term dirty rice. I don't know why, but
Hey, maybe while we're talking about
rice.
rice, let me ask you: do you know the official name for sticky rice? You know, like the
There's an official name for sticky rice.
Is the official name sticky rice?
I know it as sticky rice. My wife would probably know the proper name.
Damn. Okay, I'm still trying to figure this out because the grocery store I go to calls it sticky rice, but I don't think it's actually called that.
What does it say in the packaging?
It's just a sticky rice.
It says sticky rice. Well,
Yeah.
I go
feel
with
like
the
there's an
same
official name.
packaging, man. Like basmati rice is nice, yo.
Those are my two favorites easily: basmati and sticky.
You know what? I gotta get Big Norm to do this show as well too, because he has a joke on all different types of rice. You never heard him do that joke?
I think I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you mention comedy, I get a little sad. I miss the Nubian nights, the energy, the stories. I think just
listen, but it's gonna come back. I know that it's taking long. I know that we're frustrated. I know we haven't been able to practice the thing that we love so much. It's sort of like you're dating this girl and she disappeared for a year.
it's like long
And you're like,
distance
is she
now.
coming back?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in terms of this scenario, I think everything's going to come back because human beings like to have that same track. They like to follow the same path. So, you know, right now, as we speak, there are these big meetings where people they want to open back up Ontario, they want to open back up Canada, and they're having the big talks, right? Right? I get it, man. It's gonna come back, and these are gonna be the first people that are gonna be out there, right, at the club.
Well, you know, Yuck Yuck sold.
Hard.
You know, Yuck Yuck sold.
Which Yuck Yucks?
Downtown Toronto sold, gone.
Really?
Bro, all the clubs that we so like, and that's why I keep saying it's gone, because just momentarily it's gone. Like the clubs, underground, corner, the comedy bar, I don't know what's going on with them, but I think they still have the building as of right now. Yuck Yuck's downtown Toronto sold. Is going to be condos. Obviously, they're going to buy a new building or new location, but it'll be a while.
Yeah, but don't you think there are going to be people like myself, independent producers of
Absolutely.
shows, that are going to find
Absolutely.
venues. Isn't, you know how much
That's what
venues right now?
I feel that's what the scene is gonna be come the summertime. If things do open back up and we can be outside and stuff, you're gonna see a resurgence of all the summertime outdoor shows, the parks and all that. But these small businesses that still exist, I think you're absolutely right. People like yourself,
Yeah, they're
with
hungry.
hustle and ingenuity, absolutely. They're gonna be like, how do we get people in?
I have 2 venues right now on the same street that are like, as soon as these things unlock, come, right? Because we want to stop, because they're hungry. They've been at a deficit for over a year. So they want to be able to get back on, on their legs. And
they're all gonna
us
need
human
competitive
beings,
advantage.
us human beings who've been locked up for so long, we want to go out. We want to socialize. We want to hug. We want to shake hands. We want to bump. You know what I mean? We want to be shoulder to shoulder with our peeps again. So it will come back, and it will come back in force. This is my belief. It might be cognitive dissonance, right? Because of what I want to do. But I believe, based on, our history, that's what's going to happen. We're going to come right back in. We have to bide our time. And in biding our time, this is why I started these podcasts.
Yeah.
So that I could speak to my fellow comedians again, people who understand the way that I think, and I understand the way that they think. And I'm like, let's connect again, man. Let's watch ourselves on the screens and try to, look at the mechanical eye. And
you know what I'm very pleased with?
out.
The majority of comics that I talk to frequently, like, that sharpness is still there. I feel like a lot of us were worried in the initial lockdown, that first 6 months, man. Nobody had ever experienced that kind of forced downtime before. And everyone's freaking out. Like, I think I forgot how to write jokes. Like, getting back on stage and stuff. I remember the first set I got to do after that 6 months. Like, I don't know why. Maybe it was the podcast keeping my voice sharp.
Yes.
But I just didn't fear. At this point, we're so deep in the trenches, Mark. Like, there's no way you're going to forget your comedic voice and style now.
No, it's well, for me, because of the amount of years I've been doing it, it can't. It's just, you could walk away from riding a bicycle for 10 years. But as soon as you get back in the saddle, it comes right back.
You may stumble or wobble for a second, but maybe exactly.
But generally speaking, half a minute, you're like, all right, let's go. Let's hit the trails, right? You're back in flow again. I've been doing it too long, but I could understand the cats that were now getting into it.
Yeah.
It could have been rough, but you will see the ones that love this, and you'll see the ones that were dabbling in it. When things come back, the ones that love it, they ain't going nowhere. They're coming right back in. The ones that were dabbling, hey, maybe now they're working, for Friday Harbor and they're serving.
Now here's a question.
You know what I mean?
Do you feel like it gets more cutthroat when we come back? Because I feel like initially we're going to come back to less stages. That would make sense. You would naturally think that. Maybe not, because a lot of people will just try and do these little venues and stuff. But
yeah, because I think that there will be people like me who are entrepreneurial, if I pronounce it right, that will just get back in the horse and start putting on shows. Toronto was doing the same thing, right?
But do you think there will be enough, or do you think there will be a big enough drop off that we won't need as many stages as we had before?
No, I think people are coming back hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about audiences. I think people will want to, get back into the flow of what they are accustomed to, and they'll be hungry. Like the couple shows that I did in in this whole pandemic thing, audiences were so receptive at the shows, even though it was, smaller crowds and stuff like that. And I've heard a lot of other comedians talk about it too. It seems like they were just more appreciative, right? And once we get back out of this, the people that come out to the shows are coming out to the show. It's not a happenstance. It wasn't somebody's, side idea. It's people who are into comedy saying, yo, I can't wait to go see a comedy show. And they will laugh harder. They'll laugh longer. They laugh louder. They'll be a lot more appreciative, because the arts, not just our art form, but the arts have suffered. Ballerinas, right? Theater practitioners, all these thespians, even, shows that you are waiting for September, the new season starts. All of these things got pushed back. So there's a lot of things in the entertainment industry that suffered hard. And when it comes back, it's coming back with a storm. My belief.
I believe that too, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so much hunger and there's so much passion from both sides.
Yeah. The people that produce it need the money.
Yeah.
Right? The people that do it need the money.
And people want to feel normal.
And there are some people, now don't get me wrong. I'm very appreciative of the government putting out this money, this CERB and stuff like that to help people like ourselves, right? But there are some people that have been working at home that usually would go out on a Friday or after work or on a weekend, whatever it is, that have not experienced a disruption in their income, but a lot less money has been going out. So there's going to be a surge of money coming in because there's a lot of people that have money. Now, when they do come out, they're going to be appreciative. You know what I mean? And they're going to spread that money around. They'll drink harder. They'll eat more, right? Yeah. They'll tip better, right? Things are going to come back in my belief, in a deluge. It's going to come back hard.
That's a good use of that word.
Deluge.
Question. When does the podcast release from recording?
Usually within a couple days, I have it up. I like to put the podcast out on a Monday. Okay. I have one in the can now that I'm editing that I recorded yesterday. I have yourself. I would like to have them both out by Monday. I got the overlays with the Instagram links and all that kind of stuff done. Yeah. So it's just a matter of editing and I'm pushing it out. And then I have another one Monday for the second podcast that I do. Okay. Because I do two podcasts. I do two. One is Mark Trinidad, I Don't Know Shit. It's me talking to people that are in industries or have philosophies that I don't understand and I'm open to learn. And this one is called the HaHa Horde House, which is all about me talking to comedians and people who love comedy about, I want to know your origin story. I've seen that people, who come out to comedy clubs and become fans of comedians, they listen to them on podcasts. They want to know, what was your journey in getting involved? How did it start? Were you a kid that got abused? What is it that made you get into it? So
I love that you gave one. Wait a second. Yeah. You gave one. You gave one example. You gave one example.
Were you abused?
And were you an abused child?
Dude, these are thoughts and these are stereotypes and these are narratives that are out there, right? You've heard it. Have you ever heard people say that that comedians are the
damaged or
the Isle of Misfit toys?
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
We're all depressed. We're all alcoholics. We're all
that's sadness. Because people have met people that have that story, but it's not the only story that's out there, right? So that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to share not only mine, but all the comedians that I know. I wanted to get their stories so that we could start pushing out new narratives of how people got involved in the art form and why they appreciate the art form and what is it about this solving this Rubik's Cube that, has us all addicted to what we do. It's not just one story. There's more to it. And now, don't get me wrong, there are some broken people, but there's
a lot of broken people, man. There's enough for those stereotypes to have existed.
Yes,
it's like enough people met enough broken comedians that they're like, I think all these guys are just
some
broken.
Of these stereotypes are true because there are black men with big dicks.
Well, let me tell you something. I actually had to fight against. Like, for the longest time, I was only creating my humor and my jokes from my negative experiences. And I didn't realize I was doing this on like a subconscious level. I had so much like positive stuff that I wasn't drawing from. And my personality type, I'm a very energetic, positive type guy,
Yes.
Like I can be serious and shit, but I was only for the first now I've been doing it for 9 years. I would say maybe the first 5 years, I was really only writing jokes from my pain. And I didn't understand it was okay. And also just
to write from your joy.
To write from my joy.
Yeah.
But I had to literally I love this shit so much, man. Mostly because I love life. Like I really do love the experience of life, the ups and downs of it, coming to terms with the fact that the only reason you understand joy is because you felt pain. Like you have to have felt the
Yes.
polar opposite to
Yes.
know
Yeah.
the feeling, you know, like. So I apply that same kind of logic, and it's just who I am. So that applies to comedy too. And I was cutting myself off from this entire side of me and this entire part of my life. And I don't know, maybe it was me buying into the stereotypes of comedians for quite some time, but not realizing it.
Yeah, well, you have to cut yourself some slack because you're still. I don't use the term in a derogatory way. You're still a novice, right?
Yeah.
Because in the game of comedy, in stand-up comedy specifically, right? You know, you only start to get your legs in your 6th, 7th year, right? That's when you can start to get your legs. That's when you start to get a little bit of confidence, because the first 5 to 6 years, it's just you're getting beaten down by loss.
I did not feel funny on stage.
You don't find your voice yet.
I did. Forget my voice. Yeah. I like my thing, like peeled like an onion, you know. And I felt each level of progression, but I started knowing that I was funny, but very quickly off your first set, you know that you like, okay, you're funny, but this is a whole different fucking beast. Like being funny on stage, commanding a crowd, like there's so many layers to that itself.
Yes.
I did not feel like I was even funny on stage until it was 3.5 years. I don't remember the fucking set anymore. I have it written down at some point.
Because but I'm like, it's one step forward, like, 2 steps back. Yeah, it's. They say that life will beat you down, but comedy is such a microcosm of life that it teaches you need to get the beatings in order to progress.
Plus, it's so beautiful because the traveling aspect of it, seeing if you're open to widening your perspective, understanding different aspects of life and ways of living, then comedy is like literally the dream fucking profession.
I've had this conversation with people so much where, you know, okay, so because I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm always hustling, right? Some people have always told me it takes money to make money. And I've always pushed back on that. And I know it's a cliche, but it doesn't take money to make money. It takes an investment to make money. And the investment doesn't have to be money. The investment needs to be an investment. One can invest blood, sweat, tears, time, and energy and be able to make money. Like I was in, which island was I? I think I was in San Martin. And I filmed a video on the beach because I wanted to tell people I didn't ever buy a joke. I've never paid for a joke, right? But here I am in Saint Martin, being paid thousands of dollars to go and talk on stage. And the only thing I invested, right, was time, energy, and effort to make these jokes as good as possible. So I invested, but I didn't put money in. You see what I'm saying? Right? And people have that fallacy. And I wanted to just, you know, push out a different storyline so that some people would realize that, listen, you have a lawnmower, or your dad have a lawnmower, or your neighbor have a lawnmower. You could borrow their lawnmower and go cut somebody's lawn, and you made money and you didn't invest in buying your own lawnmower. You know what I mean? There's ways, even in real estate, they teach you how to sell a house without ever buying a house, right? There's ways to do these things, but if you limit your thought patterns, you'll always be limited. And in touring as a comedian, in traveling as a comedian, it opens up your mind and your eyes to new things. You're just saying that you're only writing jokes according to negative life experiences. It could be because you're being influenced by the comedians that you love and you enjoy, right? As comedians, we have a challenge to overcome the voices of the comedians that we were first in love with. That's why it takes us 6 years to find our own voice, because for the first 5, you're basically following the same thought patterns of your favorite comics, right? And it takes you a while to shake that off and be able to say, yeah, but I want to talk about this. So maybe your influences were a little darker, were a little bit not darker as in, color, right? Darker in terms of they talked about their demons. And it took you a while to say, you know what, I've done that, I've experienced that, but I want to talk about the things that I love and I enjoy.
I actually think more so I was misrepresenting like the progression of things. I was seeing the majority of the people in the limelight portraying like a certain style, or
Right.
not, maybe not even necessarily style, but same drawing pool of stories,
Yeah. So you once again,
and it
travel,
was like an emulation. It was like a subconscious, like you're just kind of going.
You travel to Ottawa, you see Ottawa comics. You travel to Montreal, you see Montreal comics, and you start to open up your realization that they're different. Like, all right, so some people have asked me to judge a comedy competition coming up. And I'm like, no, I'd rather put that to an audience participation, text in your favorite comic and stuff like that. Because as a judge, I'd never understood how you could judge art. Take, for example, I love Chris Rock, but I also love Mr. Bean. How do I measure those two against each other? Mr. Bean does comedy without words. Like he doesn't talk at all. And Chris Rock is a wordsmith, but they elicit the same response. Ha ha. One does it without words, one does it with great words. How am I as a judge to be able to say which one is better? I can't.
Yeah.
They both elicit the same response. They just took different avenues to get there. So let an audience do that.
Comedy is like music, man. It's very personal. It's very personal.
Just
like
any art form. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? Some people will look at you. I told myself I would never compete. And then I went and I competed in 2 comedy shows, right? One I won, the other one I didn't. So, right? It's all with the same jokes, mind you, right? So in the eyes of the judges, this was the best, number one. I can't even make it into the final 5, right? So it's subjective.
While we're on this talking about artists and the mindset of artists, I kind of want to loop back for a second and go back to the conversation about investing, namely in yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like artists fall into this trap of feeling like you need to live like a broke lifestyle and forgetting that you yourself are an investment.
Yes.
Not even just in terms of like equipment and buying shit to help you, but in terms of like getting your life right so that you are just more mentally healthy and happy. And like it also kind of ties in with that only creating from a negative mindset. I feel like there was this combination of things that I had to like, almost like Genie from Aladdin, break free of these shackles. Like I had to tell myself I was free of not comfortably portraying like that I'm happy, that I'm positive. And let me tell you, Mark, when I started just essentially being more of myself, there was pushback from certain comics, from certain because Mark, you got to look at it from this perspective, and I can see where they would be coming from, regardless of the fact of whether I think they're right or wrong, or if it's positive or negative, whatever. I'm not casting judgment,
right?
But me being overly positive, but like truly genuinely, made people question the fact that I was being fake. Like, and there are like certain comics who have just always had really shitty and negative energy towards me regardless. I use a stage name. They take offense to that. It's mainly like white dudes, first of all. It's like middle-aged white dudes. But like me using a stage name is a factor, whatever.
But then my pushback to them would be, well, that's your experience. And if that's the way that you want to portray yourself, cool, no problem at all. I respect the fact that you have an opinion. I don't share it though. And that's cool. That's okay. You know what I mean?
I
It's
try not to even engage because at that point they're just looking for reaction.
well,
Like
this
there was a
is
situation. I'll give you an example though, where
uh,
literally like you were trying to affect like I don't know if you're trying to fuck up my career or whatever, but there was a time
yeah.
where I was at a club, like a notable club, and I was doing a guest spot. And instead of bringing me up with my stage name, they brought me up with my real name and like turned and like bent over and looked at me like it was some real horse shit. Uh
Yeah, well, okay. Then I would say, you know, you spend quality time with quality people and you spend less time with people that you
Absolutely.
think are less. If that
Absolutely.
person is it, okay, so
But
you
I don't,
look,
sorry, sorry to cut
yeah,
you off
yeah,
because I
yeah.
feel like I've kind of gotten away from the original point because it's not really to bring up like these situations or anything, but it's mainly comics and people in the industry like this that took issue with me just portraying the fact that I'm happy and positive. Like they would literally,
Listen,
sorry,
in life, you'll
approach.
always have critics, guy.
Absolutely.
They'll always be there.
But that's the type of fucking shit that influences people and keeps them from truly being themselves. Because
Yeah.
most people actually, that little amount of peer pressure is enough to keep them in the box of not fully being themselves. I feel personally,
Yes.
it's hard to step past that wall of, especially if it's like comics that are more seasoned than you, like more notable than you or whatever, you know, like that carries weight. So
Right.
there's so
However,
much. What's up?
let me push you into the philosophy that I entertain, right?
Mhm.
In that the people that have walked the path before you, right, don't know your stride.
Mhm.
Okay, so they might have gotten to where you want to get to, but they might have taken a slower pace. They might have the best interest or the best, you know, intent in being able to say, "Hey, do it this way. Turn left, turn right. Watch out for the big tree and the snake in the grass." Okay, no problem at all with sharing your experience with me, sir. But I might be faster, right? I might be stronger, or I could be wrong, and I need to get that snake bite so that I can also have the outlook and the mindset that you have. There's too much of an onus nowadays on people saying to, you know, young people or people that are just young in an industry, right? Young in thought, right? Don't make mistakes. Mistakes are important for you to learn the right philosophies. So inside my household with my kids, I encourage my kids to make mistakes because I see them as life lessons. And
Of
I want
course.
you to get the life lessons. I could give you advice. Okay, I'll give you an example. One of my kids was in MMA. She sees how excited I am about the UFC, right? Because I did martial arts when I was a kid and I love the progression of the UFC. It answered a question that we had when we were younger. Which art form is karate better than kung fu? Is judo better than, right? So it answered that question. She got involved, and there was a kid that was practicing for the national team, and my daughter was the same size, so they asked if they could spar with her. And my daughter was like, "Do you want me to get into fighting? Do you want me to spar and do this?" And I'm like, "I can tutel you. I can tell you that the benefits. I could tell you the drawbacks, the CTE. I could tell you the learning to fight makes you not fight. It's a weird thing, but it's a kind of Bruce Lee thing, right? I practice the art of not fighting. You know what I mean? So I'm like, listen, do what you want to do. Don't follow my path. Do what you want to do. I'll be there to support you, regardless of the decision you make. Whether you think it's an accident, whether you think it's right, whether you think it's wrong, I support you 110%, right? She goes in, she gets clocked in the head. She never sparred again, right? But it's her decision.
Yeah, of course.
Who am I to rob you of that, you know, life
Experience.
lesson, right? Because you could have get clocked in your head and then locked and loaded, and all of a sudden you have an attention span and a desire. No, I will not let somebody else get over me. And now you're on the journey to become a Bellator or UFC fighter.
Absolutely,
Or
man.
you get clocked in your head and you're like, yo, I didn't like that at all. I never want to get involved in fighting, right? Why would I rob you of that? So
You're
somebody,
nothing without life experience.
yes.
What
So
is
somebody having more in this, thought pattern, somebody having more experience than you, turning around and giving you advice, no problem at all. But you can't make the choices for me. Right? They can tell you, in my opinion, this is what you should do. This is what you could do. This is the drawbacks that I see. But I make the decision for myself.
You know what, Mark? That is beautiful, and that is also very much accepted. But when you it's all in the approach, right? So
Yes.
if you're being a dick, if you're
Yeah.
being a piece of shit,
it's the honey and the vinegar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's then that speaks more to your character and maybe actually says more about how you feel internally than how I present externally.
I have discovered in my life, because I heard that philosophy of the honey and the vinegar early on in life, but it takes life experiences for you to realize, oh, okay. So having a conversation with someone, showing the pros, showing the cons, showing the, you know what I mean? Showing it in that manner is, nobody's going to change their mind because you told them to, unless you have an unhealthy relationship with that person, right? I prefer for you to make up your own mind, because a mind that makes up their own mind tends to stay with the actions as a result. Right?
Of course.
Whereas if I enforce something upon you, you will begrudge me and you'll begrudge the choice, and then you'll have regrets. Whereas if you did it for yourself, if you made that decision for yourself, that I want to lead you in a direction to make that decision by yourself. I don't want to make it for you. I want you to be able to, I want my kids to understand logic and pros and cons and this side and that side and every point of view, and then have the ability to make a decision for themselves and be at peace with having made that decision.
Saying what you just said, how do you feel? And granted, I actually think this is more of a visual thing than overall representative of society as a whole, but definitely I think Western culture is kind of steering away from this kind of opinion and philosophy, and more towards like a group
think.
Yeah.
But groupthink that's not a new phenomenon.
It's not.
Right?
But I feel like maybe with the advent of technology and access to stories from literally every corner of the earth, and being able to voice your opinion at the moment you have it without any sort of filtration system, not even going through another human being, like just boom.
Yeah. That is the social media dilemma, right? It's that everybody has a voice, but not everybody should speak. I don't think everybody should have a platform. Having said that, who was it that came out and said, was it Will Smith that said that there aren't more police shootings, there's just more videos of it?
Videos of it, yeah.
Right. The things that we see that are popping up as a result of social media, it's always been like that. That's the human condition.
So that's why I say initially that I think it's just more of a visual.
Yeah.
Because the optics are
now.
Exactly.
Yes. But it's always been there. Everybody who is part of, if you read the book, The Tribes, right? Everybody who's part of a tribe wants to do things to be accepted by their tribe. So this is the virtue signaling that we encounter nowadays. It's because they're trying to say to their tribe, accept me, I'm one of you, I want to be in the cool club, right? And this is not a condition that is exclusive to human beings. It's also in our cousins, the apes, right? They also do stuff. I read enough books about the great apes that I look at us and I'm like, I get it. Some people believe in God and I believe in evolution, right? But if those are our closest relatives, which is what science says, you can see a lot of things that we do are mimicked in there. And I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's close, right?
Yeah.
Stealing, hierarchy in terms of, who's the alpha male, who's the beta, right? All of these things, jealousy, incest, all of these things that we have that we think, you know what, we too
Even
high on
nurturing, like
everything.
relationships.
It's all in there.
It's all there.
Rape, sodomy, it's all in there. They have it all. They have the same thing that we do, right? Listen, human beings toss shit too, right? So it's all in there, guy. I've read, there's which is the one I'll bring up. We think that we're so far advanced and chimps and these apes are nowhere like us, right? The bonobo apes utilize sex as a bargaining tool to get better food, right? Some of these apes actually, and other animals as well, it's not just this, they will get little trinkets in exchange for sex because they know the female or the male or whatever it is, right? Will want to build a better nest. So they'll bring little trinkets that might help the nest and they get a little bit of something on the side. Dude, I read books about this because I'm fascinated by it, because we as human beings with our ego think that we're so much higher. And then everywhere in the animal kingdom, there's examples of everything that we look at that makes us higher. They have it there. Human beings, we have tools. Dude, so do they. Rudimentary tools, but they have tools. You know what crows do, man? Stop it, man. These are smart creatures. I read too much, guy. I read too much.
All right.
That's my challenge in life. I read too much, guy.
That's I'm trying to, I feel like now that I have this space, I have more space for myself.
If it's one thing that this pandemic has done, you have a lot more time to dive deep into the things that you want to dive into.
Definitely.
So read more, watch more documentaries, learn more. I just harassed my kid because I want to learn to play the piano. So I'll be starting to tickle the keys now.
Interesting. Yeah, I want to talk about this before we wrap. I don't know when you want to do that, but
dude, I haven't even gotten into asking you. Wait a minute. The whole concept of this particular podcast is asking you, how did you get started in comedy? Why did you, at some point in your life, we know Spider-Man's origin story. We know Thor's origins. I want your origin story. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Go back. We'll do the little fade thing, the little blurry thing. I will go back.
This summer.
Yes. How did you get started in comedy? That's why I'm here.
It's okay. So it's been a big component of my life. It never really dawned on me that I could do it until I had a car accident. I was a passenger in a car accident at the age of 22. And it gave me a bunch of time off work. And I just dove so deep into just the world of comedy, reading books, like Curb Your Enthusiasm also, like for some reason sparked some sort of something in my brain, the original season. So then I just ran through that. I started reading scripts. I started.
Stop. Hold on. Now I've heard stories about people that have got into car accidents or some kind of brain injury that have changed the way.
It wasn't life-threatening, like I went unconscious.
What you just told me was that at the age of 22, you started to realize it's something you want to pursue. But before that, right? Was there anything that you were doing before that?
It sounds generic. That's why I don't really bring it up. It's just I
want the generic. I have no problem with that story. Let me hear that story.
I very quickly tapped into my extrovert, I was born in Greece, and both my parents are Ethiopian. And then I moved to London, Ontario when I was 6. So at that point, it was like new country again, but new language, new customs, new way of life.
Right.
And I'm very upset about this now, but I told my mom to stop talking to me in Greek, which was my first language. So now I've lost Greek, but because I was shy and I wanted to integrate, I wanted to only speak English so I could learn it better. Bro, there's so many things that I fucking feel.
That's the whole concept of the tribe. You wanted to be accepted by your new tribe. So you had to develop, or you had to, start to take things in that they were doing in order to be able to fit in this new tribe.
Uh-huh.
Right. And especially at a young age. Right. I had a friend of mine who got drafted onto Manchester United when he was 19 years old. Right. And he was from my island, but he went and played for a year, a season, came back, and he was talking in an English accent. Why do you think that happens? Because when you're young and your brain is not fully formed yet, and your systems aren't formed yet, and you want to fit in with the new gaffers, right?
You're still forming an identity.
Yes. So he came back with an accent. We made fun of him, right? Because he came back with an accent. But it's all a matter of, I need to fit in with this new tribe that I'm going to be spending a lot of time with. And that's what you went through, trying to change and mold yourself to fit in with that tribe.
And there's a bunch of small, tiny examples throughout. I'm sure we all have those, like
Absolutely.
that I could point to.
Yeah.
But I moved around a bunch, and through that, the way I've gone back and traced my life and really examined like how my experiences shaped me and my personality and like my progression of things. I very much was like a follower. I didn't, because of that, like because of my specific circumstances, I was always trying to fit in. But I very early on developed the sense of being able to, almost like a chameleon, and I don't even necessarily see this as a positive thing anymore, but it was a sink or swim. I would either become super extroverted and be in my room my entire life, or I would force myself to jump into any group, any circle, and just like make it work. Yes. And through that, I developed a hell of a personality. When we were growing up, it was like the MSN Messenger friends list. The stupid things as a youth. Yeah, as a youth, like you take as a point of pride. It's like I maxed out my friends list. I thought this was a good thing, Mark.
Yeah.
I thought this was a good thing. And then my car accident. So at 22, all of these things, I was a follower, but like I was hilarious, but it was like unrefined. I wasn't myself.
You're too young to develop yourself.
I was too, but I couldn't. But things weren't stable enough because of the moves and certain other life circumstances. I just didn't get certain tools or lessons in traditional manners, so I would go and seek that shit from external sources, and it very much developed into this young follower. That's the only real way I can say it. That's what I truly feel. It was like more of a following mentality instead of taking that time and energy to develop internally and start to piece together. And I know it is a part of the process. Yes. I know that is also part of youth,
Yes.
But that is my specific pathway. And the car accident helped me break through that.
So for you, humor was a social lubricant.
Absolutely.
It was utilized in a way because of your moving around and stuff.
Absolutely.
To be able to fit in faster.
All I watched was comedy, like whether it was cartoon form or I was watching fucking Three Stooges, Mr. Bean, all the black and white shit. Charlie Chaplin I was watching.
Charlie Chaplin's big, yo.
I grew up watching
Buster Keaton,
and then Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx, the Wayans brothers, all these things
in living color,
completely molded. And it's funny that you mentioned that earlier. When you're starting in comedy, you really have to shed all this.
Yeah.
And I realized how much of all these influences played a role in shaping my humor. But through all this mishmash my entire life, I developed my own sense of humor, but guided through almost entirely of comedians. So it's when I say it's deeply ingrained in me, comedy almost raised me as and it's all I would watch. It's all I would do. I was the class clown, and this is why I don't like getting, because I feel like that's cliche, but that's just how I was.
Dude,
I was
you're preaching
always
to the choir.
looking for the fucking funny.
I knew it. Yeah.
Though I swear to you, Mark, I developed as a comedian, and I truly credit this period of my life for having developed comedic skills and sensibilities and tough skin, was high school lunch table. There was
Yeah.
no other more cutthroat.
Holding court in a high school. Yeah.
Yo, in school, if you wore like if your shoelaces were the wrong way, like just a
Yeah.
little uneven,
Your
niggas
pants
were
a
coming
little
at
too
your
bell
neck.
bottom, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
coming at your neck. I'm taking you, and so you really like. That's why man, I love black people. Like to I just I that may sound weird to even say out loud, but I just love us so fucking much. Like
I love
just
people.
that. Okay, first of all, I love people,
I love
but
people.
I have to be specific here because it was like this camaraderie in high school amongst my black peers that, and let's be honest, I feel like ethnic people in general have a thicker skin just because we tend to go at each other. It's just like part of our, like Spanish people, it's part of our culture to just go at each other's necks.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know if maybe that's like from a childhood thing, but like if I was like slightly, I wonder where if I was on the race scale, like how much of an importance that would have played in my outcome. My comedic sensibilities were probably most sharpened because I was a black kid.
Well, growing up in North America, I could understand that completely. Right.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Caribbean, I have my kids always harass me. My wife and myself, we have totally different life experiences because we didn't grow up in such an environment such as North America. North America, there's a little more hostility that we
separation.
And the time that we grew up in, the hostility wasn't there. The race baiting, the
segregation,
it was just different. It was different in the Caribbean.
Man, we're still living with fucking Jim Crow to this day, like remnants of Jim Crow.
Dude, they still have, and that's a whole thing of power. It's not you know what, you're dark and I want to have, something over dark skinned people. No, I just want to have the power. They'll find a new dark person to call dark. You know what I mean? Because the Irish people were
that is beautiful
Italians.
Because you can literally trace person. That.
Yeah, you could find it.
Like for me, it really started kicking on when it was like 9/11 and Arab people really took the fucking took that torch, man.
They became the new relay runner, right? And then it became the Muslims. All right, it's the Muslims. It doesn't matter which Muslim you are.
Even to this Arab,
day, it didn't matter. You're Muslim.
With coronavirus, now you're seeing Asian communities that get.
And that's a circle because they were getting the heat in, what was it, the 30s? After the world wars and stuff like that, they were getting it back in them days, right? Building the railroad and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So they got it before, and it came right back around, and they're getting it again. It's the people in power will always find someone to be able to say them. It's a thing where even in South Africa and Africa on the whole, when you look at how a small amount of people could have controlled that big amount of people, it's because they were able to separate the people that were below them. They would say, the Zulus, they were trying to do something against the Tutsi, and they always separated the tribes in some manner. It wasn't always color. It wasn't always ethnicity. It wasn't always nationality. They found ways to separate people. And that's why I said this before when I heard Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut, say that astronauts have a totally different outlook on the planet, because when they're up in the air, up in space, and they look down at this blue planet, they see two things. They see land and they see water. They don't see any, geographical lines between countries, right? So they're like, everything is a man-made construct, right? This whole thing about race, man-made construct, right? This whole thing about nationalities, man-made construct. It's land, it's water. Are you a water being or you're a land being? That's how they see it. And that's how I kind of like to look at it too. That's why I say if you travel and you go past your little land border, and you experience somebody else, you start to realize we all want to have a significant other. We want to love someone. We want to have a lot of us want to have kids so we could pass along our genes. And we want a house or some kind of domicile to protect them. We want to feed them, clothe them, protect them. how much more basic can we get? That's all what we all want. We might eat different rice, right? We might love differently, but it tends to be the same.
Mhm.
We're all the same. Some might be darker. Some might have a God. Some might have gods. Some might have none, right? But we're basically the same. I want to eat. I want to sleep. I want to shit. I want to fuck. I want to have kids. I want to protect them. There you go. It's that simple to me. A lot of people might not have that philosophy, but that's mine. Watch out. My kids are going to watch this one day and then I'm going to get in trouble. Daddy!
Has that happened yet?
Dude, my kids... Okay, so when I was putting on shows here in Barrie and stuff like that, my kids would come to the show and I would talk about, I wish you guys would go to sleep earlier because I like to fuck at 2 a.m. And you guys are cock blocking daddy, right? So they hear my jokes, you know, like my daughter, one of my daughters calls me a pervert. It's okay. I have no problem with that. I am me. You know, I don't try to take the shine off. That's who I am. Unblemished. That's me. So whatever.
That's very human, which is like I feel like that must be beneficial from a child's perspective to get from such a young age to see your parents as just man, that barrier is a huge one. Once you get to that wall, when you stop looking at your parents with like that superhero cape and just see them as people like you, essentially, with just a different connection to yourself. But we are essentially all the same. Like, I completely resonate with what you're saying. Nothing separates us from anybody else other than maybe blood, you know? Like, and
even blood is the same.
I only
have it, it's all red.
Like, I only mean that to say like familial, like we get like parents and siblings and whatever. But even that's kind of the pulling of the cape. Like when you remove that cape and stop seeing them as anything other than an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you realize like, oh, we're all literally extensions of ourselves.
It's only natural that when you're vulnerable, right? When you're a baby and you're vulnerable, those that protect you become your gods.
But not everybody breaks that barrier. Not everybody loses that
because
that vision of
but because the people that are in that position of power tend to want to, and it's not at the forefront of their mind, right? It's not like they're doing this for nefarious purposes, but they want to keep that control. I don't want to keep that control. I want you to be able to have the ability to, utilize logic, look at your, progression and say that I have ambition. I want to achieve this and be able to make that decision for yourself. I definitely want you to do for yourself. Listen, I made a joke about it. I went on stage and told this, but it's true. If one of my kids came to me and said, I want to be a stripper, I might be disappointed, but I'll buy a pole and you'll practice in the basement, right? It's not because I want you to be able, I have chased my dream my entire life, right? I got involved in, this is my own origin story. I got involved in art, as in traditional art, painting and stuff like that at the age of 17. By the time I hit 18, I was asked to participate in a cartoon character, basically, where I got to dress up and entertain children. By the time I was 19, I was doing theater. By the time I was 20, I was doing sketch comedy, right? And I see the progression of how things came about. If I never started art, I might never have gotten to theater, right? Those connections were made in the manner in which they made. I don't want to rob my child of a connection point of because where they're at isn't where they're going to stop. It might just be a transitionary point. It might be Young Street. It might be Eglinton Station. You know what I mean? It might be just a point. One of my kids wanted to buy a snake, right? If I let my demons of hating snakes be pushed onto my child, right? They might resent me. They might become hateful of snakes, just like I was. But what I said was, you teach me about it. And if you could teach me about it and show me the pros and cons and having it, then I'll make a decision based on that, and let's see. And now we have a snake in the house because they were able to educate me, show me that they would be able to take care of it by themselves. They would be responsible. And I'm like, maybe this is a point where they look at becoming a vet. If I took that away and they never progressed beyond that, who knows? Right? We met people that started off with one snake, now have a business or earning 6 figures a year, and all they do is they feed snakes at home and breed them, right? So
yeah,
I know that there are people that are parents that don't want to lose power over the kids. You have to go to this school, you have to follow this career. I don't want that. I want you to be logical. I want you to pursue your dreams, and I'm going to push and help in any way that I can, even if I think that it's not the right direction to go, or I wouldn't do it for myself. I'm going to help you every step of the way, because it might not be a finishing point, or it might be the new love of your life. I can't rob you of that. It's your beautiful life to live, not mine. Philosophy 101, I guess.
That's very beautiful. I love these conversations, man. This to me is growth. This to me is comparison. And
this is why I want to talk to more comics, right? I want to understand the philosophies behind the decisions that made them. Like in our industry, how many dark comics you know that do dark comedy? There's so few of us. You know, the what's his name? Andrew Jeselnik. What's his name? He does the dark comedy. Jeselnik. Yeah. How many comics have you seen that do that kind of dark comedy? They're few and far between. In 25 years, I've probably met or seen 3 of them start to develop in the comedy circuit. They're hard to find, right? But I want to know, what are the things that caused your mind to operate like that, to think like that? What were your experiences? And, you know, this is why, you know, you go back to, were you from a single parent home, a double parent home? Were you adopted? Were you dropped? Were you in a car accident at 22? What are the things that caused what are the way stations? What are the points that took place that got you into stand-up comedy? Because I love the art form and I love the artists, but the journey to get there, I want to see that. What books did you read when you started? You said you read some books after the accident.
I was reading a lot of script reading books. It was mostly actually like script writing. Comedy.
Did you go to Humber College? Did you do Humber College?
No, I did not go to school.
What caused you to pick up the first book?
It was the Curb Your Enthusiasm season that got me interested in, when I understood that it was improv, but there was like a loose guide for an arc, for an episode, and for the season. That's when I picked up the Curb book and actually started reading through those scripts. Then I'm like, improv. I'm like, I could go finally try and do this. From the car accident, I had a bunch of time off work. You know what I'm saying? So after I was healed, like enough to be mobile, I still wasn't active enough to go to work. So I started doing improv. And from there, I'm like, I feel like something is missing. And I felt so stupid, Mark, when I realized how much of an impact that stand-up specifically and comedy in general have played in my life, to the moment where I'm like, why the fuck did I never think that I should be doing comedy or try comedy? And from 6 months of doing improv, it was about 6 months, I did my first set and I was done with improv. I was like, I just immediately, I'm like, I feel at home.
Yeah.
But I credit improv for that 6 months, because, and I have the tape somewhere. My first set, I was riffing. I like had a presence about me and I was interacting with the audience. Not that it was like the greatest of my ability.
No, but you had a little bit of a head start.
Exactly. And I absolutely credit improv for the fact that my first set wasn't a bomb. I don't look back at my first comedy experience and be like, oh my God, it was so bad. Like, it actually wasn't that terrible. The jokes were shit, but like there was like a framework, you know what I mean? Which is more than, I feel like I which is more than I should have had at that stage.
Yeah, it's because of your experience that you had stage presence. And when a crowd sees somebody with confidence, even though that their material might not be the best, they tend to give a little more something to that person. My example is because I did theater, I already understood stage presence and projecting my voice. So when I got on stage, I had a little bit of a headway, right? Jay Martin, Tricks, they had the DJ and being able to do the talking on the mic thing. So they kind of had being able to command an audience already. So when they came in and they hit the stage, right, they already had a head start where others might not have had that, who were trying for the first time. So I can always see that is something that's beneficial. If you've already had some experience in group talking, in being in the front of a crowd, it tends to make you have an easier passage into the world of stand-up comedy. So because of your ad-lib experience, you had an easier passage into the world of stand-up comedy. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. But that was one of the way stations that you had to pass through in order 100%. To get to this position.
There was something, I was really enjoying improv, but there was, I'm telling you, Mark, how stupid I felt when it finally like clicked. I'm like, it's stand-up, dummy. Like
that I wanted to do. Yeah.
It was, man. And that's why at the beginning of my career, I very much felt like there was this overwhelming feeling of I was late to the party. There was this thing that had always been in my life. And like Chappelle, how much I love this guy and watched his like original JFL, his original specials. Like,
yeah,
like I came up on him.
Killing them like, softly.
And knowing his story and how he started as a teen. Was it 14?
I think he was started even earlier than that. I think it was something like 12 or something like that. Yeah. His mom had to take him to the clubs.
Even starting comedy in Hamilton, Ontario, Mace Galone started at 18, I believe. I remember seeing him at shows when I first started, and he was already years into doing comedy. But then like you grow out, I also had to grow as a human being and stop comparing, you know, like to compare is foolish, is detrimental.
I get it. I understand why it's done. I also look at, and on the topic of comparison, I like to, because you brought up Chappelle, I like the story of Chappelle because his mom was so influential and so open the door for him into the world, in that she was so open-minded enough to be able to say, you have an interest, I'll be there to support you, right? So I look at my own story with my own kids and being like, yeah, that's the kind of parent that I want to be like. I'm there. You're my kid. I'm going to support you no matter what. Even if I think it's right, even if I think it's wrong, I'll support you. And it turned out really well, right? But he always turns back and he credits his mom for that. You know what I mean? His parents, the strong maternal figures that he had in his life. Yeah, it's a wonderful story. And you're nowhere near the end of your development. No comedian is, you know, before his 30-year, unless he deliberately, you know, decides to rinse and repeat the same kind of stuff. But the more experience that you have, the more books you read, the more conversations with good people you engage with, you can't help but continue to progress.
Comedy is the one thing beginning.
You're still at the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm still an infant in life, man. That's why I truly see comedy and life like this. In my mind, they are one and the same. Like progression in one means progression in the other for me.
Yeah.
Like, because I have more to draw from. I used to, like when I first started doing comedy, I used to get these writing block moments, and there would be times where they would last like over a month, and I'd be freaking out. I'm like, I forgot how to write. I forgot how to write jokes. Foolish. How stupid that is.
Do something.
What I ultimately, later on as I progressed and even had more just personal life experience, what I realized was I wasn't just doing that, experiencing life. Like things had stagnated to a point where I wasn't drawing inspiration from anything. So I took those as moments to be like, okay, go do something that I normally wouldn't do or haven't done in like the past little while or whatever.
Yes.
Go try and like just experience, and then remove the pressure of needing to write a joke every fucking 5 minutes or whatever. Like, there's no formula to this shit. Absolutely not. There's absolutely no formula. When you get advice,
I tell people that's it.
It's hard to give advice, man. I don't like giving advice. Me personally, the one thing I usually say is like this. It's like I usually like trying to have people around you like you. These conversations help you develop yourself as a human being, help you take on new philosophies and ideas that may challenge how you feel. And if you are open enough to have these conversations, I feel like a lot of people, like, this is why they love to debate and gossip and all this horse shit that is ultimately detrimental to your own self-preservation and progression. Like these moments where there's a lot of people that go into a debate or an argument with the idea that they are right. 100%.
That I'm going to change your mind.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to the opposite. As opposed to going in and being like, I may learn something.
Yes.
Or I may be challenged to the point where I have to now actually look at how I view things.
Yes.
And there's too much of this going, like, there's too much
many
of
people
this.
Nowadays want to be right. I got no problem with you wanting to be right, but I got a problem with you not wanting to test the fact that you could be wrong.
Yeah, man.
Or that there could be a different direction, or there could be new information that's been introduced, right? That you don't know as of yet. I don't like this, I'm right, you're wrong attitude. And you see it's a very polarizing thing nowadays. Nobody wants to admit. That's why I came up with the concept for my other podcast, which is Mark Trinidad, I Don't Know Shit. Because you got to have enough humility to be, listen, you probably are right about certain things, but guaranteed you're going to be wrong about some because nobody has all the information.
Hell yeah, man.
So be open and humble enough to say, all right, cool, I have this thought pattern, but let me test it. Let me sit down with somebody who had the opposite viewpoint and test it. Let me see what.
How do you really know you hold your view?
Exactly.
If you don't test it.
But listen, it's just about it's simple enough. You might be taller than me, right? You and I standing on the same hill, but because you're taller, you have a little more that you could see because of your height, right? You tell me something and I'm like, not true, right? Why am I not open up enough to the fact that maybe you might be seeing something I don't see, right? That's why I say you must have a little amount of humility in every conversation with someone, because someone can listen. Some people look down on people that live on the street, right? Because I have a house. What is wrong with you? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, blah, blah, blah. But a guy who lives on the street could teach you things too. You might be able to teach about fiscal responsibility, maybe, right? But they could teach you how to survive without money. Wouldn't that be beneficial? That in some, twist and turn of life, you find yourself in a position where you are, under the weather or, in a bad situation. Wouldn't that knowledge be beneficial? Ask questions, learn, be open to learn. I think the Buddhists have a saying where, every man is both a student and a teacher. Because even the child can teach an old man how to have a much more flexible mind, right? Or can teach someone about curiosity. When we get older, we tend to think we know it all, and we don't. We don't. My kids have to show me how to open up Zoom. Leonard Chan harassed the crap out of me because it took me half an hour to send him the link because I couldn't figure out how to send the link, right? I have no problem with being able to say, yeah, I'm stupid, but you cannot judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. In his domain, he is the master. But I'm not in his domain at the moment. He's in mine. So how am I going to look down on him because he's a master in his? Right? Be open, be humble, man.
Hey, I want to talk about this.
I think I'm doing too much mushrooms.
You do psychedelics?
Yeah, guy. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Allegedly.
That makes sense.
Allegedly.
That makes sense. No wonder why we connect so much. I feel like psychedelics really help in a human's
They do, but I'm late to that game.
But still,
very late.
So that's even more blessed because you were already open-minded enough.
Yes.
Like, I mean, life just plays out as it does, you know? I feel like even before I ever did psychedelics, the car accident was the point in my life where I really feel like I booted on as a human being. I started examining.
With death can do that.
And it wasn't even like life-threatening, but I went unconscious and it was just enough of a fucking shake.
It's enough of a shake. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I had a few of those when I was a kid. So my whole philosophy I talk to my kids all the time and say, you need to learn how to use the washing machine because mommy and daddy could die in a car crash. Because I've had those experiences in my childhood. So I'm like, I know we're close to death at all times.
I actually had closer brushes with death in childhood, but I think I was too young for that to have really triggered any sort of, maybe it did some good, like in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
But I don't think I wasn't cognitive enough, or I wasn't like evolved enough with enough experience to have that much meaningful effect.
Everything affects you. So
let me tell you, Mark,
you've ever had, it's there.
From 22, when that car accident happened, that's when I really started examining my life and piecing together my personality traits and why I was the way I was, what my experiences, what part they had in building my character and personality. It wasn't until 27 till I felt like that cycle was complete. And that's when I truly felt like, okay, now I'm actually just starting to really be myself. If that, as crazy as that sounds.
No, that's the progression of life, my friend.
And I hear 27. I've actually had these conversations with numerous people, and I hear like 27 is usually around the number for a male specifically. I don't know why, but just maybe enough life experience.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably. You have you have infancy, you have young adult, you have a little bit of adult,
and then your brain forms at the age of 25.
At 25,
yeah.
I wish I didn't smoke weed before 25. Once I actually understood the effect of, you're just brain development, not being fully developed until 25. As weird as it sounds, I kind of wish I would have. If there's one thing I would have changed, I probably would have paused on the weed, because I still smoke weed, I think, but
I don't ever. We're a bag of chemicals, right? A human being, we're a bag of chemicals. And some people have an abundance of one, and some people have less of one. So anytime you're introduced to a chemical and it has good benefits, great, right? If you're introduced to a chemical and it had bad, avoid it. No problem at all. It's just another part of life. I see the demonization of all these chemicals. Some
not
of them
even necessarily demonization. Sorry to cut you off, but there is, I do believe, something to the fact that your brain is still developing, and then introducing outside substances before I don't know. I feel like it did have an effect. Yeah,
but you can't go back and change anything.
You're right. It's all butterfly effect. You change one thing, you change all.
You can't change anything. You can't go backwards, right? So it is what it is. I experimented at a certain age, and this is what happened as a result. But you can't go back and change them. You can't unspill milk, right? You can't unsmoke the weed. You already smoked the weed. You've already had the experience, right?
Very fair.
It is what it is, and then you move on. What decisions am I gonna make now based on having that experience from then? You move forward. You can't move backwards. That's why it doesn't make any logical sense for someone to be living in the past and regretting a decision that they made. I don't understand.
It's already said and done. Now what do you do to move forward? And so you did it. So how do you stop it from happening again? Now it's about looking. Yeah.
What you gonna do now? All right, cool.
All right,
that happened.
Let's have this conversation.
Yeah, well,
then I gotta bounce.
UFC.
But wait a second, because tonight specifically, what do you watch? There's a real fight. I think Whitaker versus
Yes. There's the Whitaker Gastelum fight tonight.
But then there's also Ben Askren
and that clown. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch that.
You're a real fight fan.
No, I'm UFC. I'm watching.
I'm
UFC.
a real fight fan too, but the novelty of this is just, I don't know what to put on and then what to watch on replay.
I want to know where the GoFundMe is right now for Ben Askren. If he goes on double legs, Jake Paul puts him on his head. You know what I mean? Gives him a rear naked choke. I'll contribute. I'll send money. Things are tight, but I'll send money. I'll appreciate that, because you're a jackass to think that you're this big shit and you only use one weapon. That cat has more weapons than you, fool. That's not a real fight. That's why I like the UFC. I appreciate boxing, but come on, man. Look at what the UFC represents. I get it. Use just your feet, use just your hand, whatever. Go ahead. But in terms of the closest thing to real combat, UFC.
Who's your favorite fighter
of
all
the
time?
Spider.
Anderson Silva? Same.
Favorite of all time.
Same.
Yeah.
Like
what he had the ability to do, the nonchalant way that he did it. You know what I mean? The superiority that he had over his competitors.
Yeah. He was leaps and bounds in that peak. Because they really the end of his career really worked to discredit a lot of
but those that saw him, because the young cats who were coming into the game late, when they see him at the end, they didn't understand. And even when he got into the UFC, people were still saying, yo, he's not what he used to be. Because even before that, he was even more superior, if you could wrap your mind around that, right? But I love them, each and every one of them, for what they bring to the scale. Even Platinum Perry, I love him too, right? Even
when did you get in?
Oh my God, early, like the beginning.
Like brutal UFC days?
Yeah, where the ring was falling down. Guys were coming in with one glove on, still wearing gis, right? Wrestling shoes.
No rules. It was like literally when they were banned. The
pad was like a pillowcase, right? Like, yes. In the beginning, when I used to do, I did, all right, so these are the martial arts that I passed through. First, I did judo, then karate, then kung fu, then aikido. Those were the martial arts that I was involved in. I didn't spend too long in any one of them, because I now know in my late years that I have ADHD. I get, I move quick, right? It's just how my mind works. I get bored quickly of shit, right? But it was always a thing back then, which martial art was the best, which is the better one. If you put a judo guy against an aikido guy, what's going to happen? If you put a karate guy against a boxer, what's going to happen? So the UFC was answering those questions. And that's why I loved it. And to see now that the traditional art forms may not be where someone starts now. People are starting off in MMA now. Oh my gosh, wonderful to see. That's why my kids were doing Aikido, right? And MMA gym opened up in 15 minutes away from my house. So I'm like, you want to see what it's like? And I carried them there. And then it was like, yeah, we're doing this instead. I'm like, okay, cool. Right? I just introduced it. They made the decision to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. I guess this is where we at now.
You know what? I will tell you this. Before comedy, right before that car accident, with a coworker of mine, I started getting into boxing. And in my mind, I was then going to get into Muay Thai. Right. And then get into MMA. Right. That was at that time, that was my thinking in my career, like path, choice, and trajectory. I did the boxing training for like 6 months. And I really feel like if somebody had guided me properly in terms of getting into a gym, because if I had really continued down that path, I would have been like a super light heavyweight, like I would have, or not super light heavyweight, but just super lightweight. Yeah. Like featherweight, man. Like I didn't understand physical fitness, and even though I was doing this training, no one was like, yo, go to a gym and get to a weight that you're comfortable at or want to be at. I just didn't have that the guidance and the focus to see that through. And then the car accident was history. And then it's funny now because now I'm into physical fitness, but I'm a comedian.
It's amazing how some things that are introduced when you're young, you weren't ready yet. But as you get older and you see its values, you start to come back to it. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's the nostalgia of it that you're wishing for your youth that you come back to it. But that's what life is. It is what it is, right? Some things that are around come back around. Some things that are around disappear. And it's all part of this game, man. Part of the game. Yeah. We're not here for a long time. right? We're a blip in the history. You know, if you watch the cosmos, we're a blip of a blip of a blip on the whole scale of time. So listen, enjoy your blip.
Yeah.
Find the things that you love, focus on that, do more of that, try to inspire and help others to find, you know, some sort of meaning in their blip, because some people think that there is meaning and you have to find your life path, and some people believe, yeah, there's meaning because I make the meaning, I make my life path, I make my decisions, right? Either way you see it, good for you. I'm not one to come and interfere with how you see it. See it the way you see it, but do it with a smile on your face. You know what I mean? Yeah, guy. We could finish there with that philosophy dump.
That's blessed. What a beautiful wrap up.
I'm not the one to dictate for people. I'm just one on my journey, and I just want to see how you started yours and how you enjoying yours. That's it. That's it. Yo, guy, I know you have to go, so we'll do it again. I have on the bottom of our thing that we do here, I'll put up your Instagram so that people will know how to find you. And you also have a podcast that you do as well.
Yes, sir.
That's on all the platforms that they could download.
Correct. iTunes, Google, Spotify, Black Zeus, the podcast, every Wednesday. It's on YouTube on the Fridays. We do a custom theme song every week. So my boy's a producer. And so we get like new music every week that's made from clips from the episode. It's really fun. That
is wild, man. I have an intro song for my other podcast. I have to find one. There's some inspiration that has to hit me to make one for this one, but I'll get there. Progression.
Shout out to Hen Dog. I got to shout him out. Shout out to Hen Dog.
Hen Dog is his name?
Yeah, Hen Dog on social media.
And, that sounds very sexy.
Literally my oldest friend. He's like my oldest friend. I've known him since elementary school.
Hen Dog.
Hen Dog. HENDAWG.
Hen Dog.
Yeah, Hen Dog.
Like chicken dog.
Dog. You what up?
Hen. Hen. Okay, never mind.
And I'm AKA Black Zeus. That's pretty much it. I love you.
Thank you very much.
Mark, I love you, man.
Appreciate you, my brother. We will do
this.
Thank
you for having me. This was honestly blessed. I forgot. I missed my dose of Mark.
Dude, we're gonna get together despite this whole thing. Don't worry about it. You know, don't tell nobody. We'll have masks and shit. And
we just told your whole audience. So
no, it's a legend. Have a good one, bro. Take care.
Love you, my man.
Thank you, bro.
Peace.